Well, good evening, fans all around the Atlantic broadband cable area and out there on the internet. It's Sunday evening here in Preston County, and time once again for the Coaches Show with head coach Paul Koontz. And the Preston Knights have week one of high school basketball behind them, Coach. And it probably didn't yield the results that any coach wants to see. But let's go over some things and talk a little bit about the first three games for Preston Knights boys basketball here in the 2017-18 season. You start out going through the meat grinder, and UHS comes up on the mountaintop. The end result, because I think we're going to go through this pretty quickly, is UHS 85, Preston 51. Now that probably not totally unexpected when you are pretty much a new team facing last year's state title runner-up. But still, the Knights seemed competitive at times in that game. Let's talk about the pluses and minuses of game one.
Well, we came out a little tight. Expected we would. We don't do very well against pressure, and they pressured us, got us into a lot of turnovers early, and got us down 30-11 in the first quarter. And we just never really recovered completely from that. We had, point production. We had 11 in the first quarter, 11 in the second quarter, and 11 in the third quarter. And we've got to score more points than that. Defensively, we did a little better in the second quarter, but the third quarter they got us, and then we outscored them 18-12 in the fourth quarter. We've just got to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit smarter against the pressure. But the effort at that game was there. We had some moral victories, I guess you could say. And we've come a long way against University. Last year we played them twice, and basically beat us by 80 both times. So, we're getting there. A loss is still a loss, no matter if it's 1 or 80. But we came feeling okay. There was no panic after the game, so that was a plus.
One of the things that I heard people, and first of all, let me say this. Nice crowd for the home opener. We had good support for the boys in the stands in terms of numbers. It wasn't a packed house, but it was very, very full, lower level. And one of the things that was encouraging was one of the, for December, one of the larger contingent of students I've seen over in the Castle Crazy section in a while. And so they came out to root the boys on and see what the new version of Preston High Night basketball was going to be all about. And I think people were pleasantly surprised by the effort that the boys gave, and not just the starters, but after the game I kept hearing people say, "Did you see how deep we went on the bench?" And I know part of that is you're still fitting pieces together and who's going to play where and give the effort that you want to see. But I thought across the board, from starters to some of the guys that were coming in off the bench, that you got a pretty consistent effort from all of the Knights in that game. Does the coach see it the same way?
Well, I tell you, we're still experimenting, and we'll probably we'll get to it here maybe a little bit later on, but we'll probably have some different lineups next week in the next week's games against Elkins and John Marshall. Our leading scorer is coming off the bench. So, and playing about a quarter and a half. We've got to recognize that and understand why that's happening as well. So, we feel we have 8 or 9 players that we can interchange just about anybody out there, and we don't drop down. So, we're going to make some. We're going to give everybody a chance here in December and try to get it finalized for a good group that we're going to feel we can go with for January.
Okay. Out of the frying pan and straight into the fire you go on one day's rest down to Morgantown High. Now again, you're playing a team that may be reloading just a little bit in Morgantown, but they're always good. And Coach Tallman, he knows what he's doing, and he's got his program installed down there. So he's maybe reloading and changing some cartridges in the gun, but he's not doing anything that I don't think anybody doesn't expect him to do. Preston goes into Morgantown, and at halftime, I think the Knight fans were kind of sitting back in a little bit of amazement. It was a 24-21 game, and the Knights potentially could have been in the lead going into the locker room at the half. What sort of magic did you work, or what was going on there that kept that such a close first half contest?
Basically, one word: defense. I told him and before the game, 60 points is going to win tonight, and we're going to hold them under that. But we need to have 60 points. We need to just let it all hang out, and that we were going to play them man to man. We felt we could, and if we put pressure on them, we would be in the game. In that first quarter, even as close as it was, we only scored 2 points in the first quarter, but they only scored 7. So we're down 5. And then, we come out in the second quarter and actually outscore them. So, I think it was 19-17. But we missed 4 or 5 layups and 4 or 5 easy shots. I really felt we could have had a 5 or 6, 10-point halftime lead had some things went our way. But even to only be down 3 at the half, just those guys that are seniors, when they were sophomores on the Morgantown High team, they were state champions. So, it was a tough team to come out, and we really felt good. But I told them, guys, this is like a big boxing match, and I guarantee you they're coming back out and going to punch us in the third quarter. We got to be ready for that, and they did, and they outscored us 21-2 in that third quarter.
And fans who go back a ways with the program will know this isn't the first time the Preston Knights have had a 2-point quarter. Fortunately, they're pretty few and far between most years, but that had to be a little bit of a shock. I mean, you may not have been scoring as much as you wanted to, but certainly there was some offensive production there in the first half, and to be down just 3 and to be buoyed by being that close. How did the wheels fall off the offense? What happened that caused the point production to just go away? Because, it almost felt like, listening to it on the radio, that the maintenance staff came out at halftime and nailed a lid on the basket on the visitors' end of the floor.
Well, we got out of our system. We started playing me basketball instead of running our offense. And that all started with the pressure that Morgantown High, they turned up the heat. They went full court man-to-man. Then they went into their trapping zone man-to-man, full court press. The pressure got to us, and we kind of reverted back to old habits. And, we have an offensive system that when it works, we get open shots, we get high percentage shots, and we score. And when we go back to playing whatever ball we want to play as a player, it takes us out of our system, and really it's just not productive. So they took us out of our offense, out of our game, and really put it to us there in the third quarter.
Listening to the descriptions but not seeing the game, it seemed like the Knights were struggling tremendously to get the ball up over the timeline in that third period especially. And is the pressure going to be a huge problem going forward in the season for the Knights? Do you have to find somebody new to put at point or to handle that ball and bring it up, or exactly what has to happen more than just being me or we?
Well, actually, the point's not the problem. Ethan Livengood's running our point right now, and he's doing a pretty good job. I got to find guys that want to get the ball in their hands to give him some help. We're running from the basketball. We're playing hot potato. We're not wanting to catch it and do something with it, or we catch it in one dribble and stop. We've got to get it in. That we've got to move this ball off the floor. And I tell you, I told the boys to be fair, we don't have a full court to practice on. So our practices are done half court, with sharing the gym and the situation that we do up there at Preston High. We very rarely get to have a full court to practice on. If we do, it might be 15 minutes. So the type of pressure that University High and Morgantown High brings on you, you better be ready for that. And you've got to practice against that. We don't have that luxury of having extra gyms, and we're going to work on some things. We went over to the Civic Center the first 2 weeks of the season and practiced, and we're going to work on going back over there so we can get a full gym and maybe a couple days a week. But when you don't practice for that pressure, it's tough to compete against it.
Okay, and in talking with some folks around town during the week, that kind of illuminates something for me. You can't break a press if you can't practice against one. And I've never seen much of a half-court press. So
No. No.
Not the type of thing that you faced in the first two games this season. So that does explain a lot of it, is that the boys just aren't ready to see what's being thrown at them when that happens. And that is a problem.
It is, but still we've got to be able to. Somebody's got to stand up and want the ball and want to come and help. In that third quarter of Morgantown, we had a lot. I'm watching the video replay of that. A lot of guys are just standing around, and we can no longer. You can't stand around against Morgantown High. They're too quick. They're coming at you. So even we can still do some of the little things, and that surprised me, because that first two quarters we were active, especially that second quarter. We got after it. I mean, we outscored them in the second quarter. I mean, starters for starters. We were punching right with them. And then it just fell apart. So we got to learn from that and move on.
The Knights fall by a little more respectable margin, 57-34. Not that that's a good thing, but given the halftime score, I think folks could see the potential there. And I know there was a relatively small but excited group of fans coming out of Morgantown. Maybe a little disappointed at the final result there, but certainly happy to see that Preston played even with an old foe like Morgantown, and I'm sure that fans won't be able to wait to get Morgantown in the castle for the rematch coming up in January. Be that as it may, a lot of basketball to be played between now and then. You had one more game in the first week of the season, and that was against a team that we're not real familiar with, Magnolia High, coming over out of the Ohio Valley Conference, down on the river. Bunch of kids who really have to love to play basketball because there's nothing else to do there, and there's no four-lane highway to get you in and out of town. Over there on the Ohio River, I imagine they play a lot of ball. They've certainly won a lot of awards for their basketball, although they're a small school. They are some of Wayne County's finest, and they came to Morgantown for the holiday tournament. Preston goes up against a team that you would hope to be able to make some headway against. I think physically you matched up very well against them in terms of size and speed. It didn't go the Knights' way, and you end up with a 68-59 loss. How much of a disappointment was that for you, Coach, and how much of a disappointment was it for the boys coming out of that game?
Well, it took the air out of the sail for the weekend, for sure. We watched that team play Elkins right after our game with Morgantown, and Elkins beat them by about 20, and they only scored like 40-some points against Elkins. And I was like, went home, watched the video. I was up at 6 a.m. Coach Felton and I were on the phone at 6 a.m. watching that video together, and we put a good plan together, and we presented it to the boys. We knew what their weaknesses were, but we also knew they seen what Morgantown High did to us in the third quarter. Magnolia is very well coached. They're a multi-state champion team. That program won't stay down. And that's exactly what they did. They came out, and they pressured us, and they harassed us, and on the court, we had more talent and more size than they did. They really didn't even match up to us. And then they have a kid who scores 4 points on Friday night, explodes for 27 on us. we for some reason everything he threw up went in. So, but just very inconsistent play.
And again, turnovers an issue.
Yeah, 32 turnovers, 34 turnovers. Our kids went back to let's just come down and throw it 2 times and chuck up something. And I was really disappointed in that. That's not our game. That's not how we're going to win basketball. And, you know, we're going to have to make some changes this week, and we will. We just can't play ball like that.
Hey, you head into the second week of the season. You know, this is the point in December where hopefully you can pick up a couple of victories and start to get set for the new year. Now, first on the list, coming out of week 1, you have Elkins, and fortunately or not, you've been able to see each other and scout each other pretty well. Obviously, Magnolia benefited from watching the second half of your game against Morgantown High. Will Elkins match up well enough to come into Kingwood with any kind of a press when they get off the bus? Or do you think maybe, again, here's an opportunity for a game that the Knights should be able to win?
Well, I tell you, it's on paper, yes, we're the better team. We're definitely looking for our first victory against Elkins, but I can also tell you Elkins watched us play twice, and they seen the pressure and seen us just implode on that. So I guarantee you Elkins will come at us, full court press, man-to-man or zone. I'm not sure what they'll do. We're going to have to try to prepare for both. But again, I mean, I don't think it's any secret now. Teams put pressure on Preston, and you know you're in the driver's seat. So I'm sure that's what they're looking at. You know, we match up very well against them. They've got a couple decent shooters. No real big size inside. So you know they're not coming in here with any dominating team. It's a game I'm going to put to the boys. You need to win this one. This is one that we can win. You know, you let Magnolia get by you, and you know, I'm a coach. I'm going to ask these players to be accountable for what they did, and I've broke the game down and graded each player, and there's some players that you know is going to have some probably hurt feelings Monday's practice, but it's nothing more than this is what you did and this is how you performed, and we've got to improve on things. But we're gonna keep working and learning. Both games this week, again, I want to ask for big crowds because both games we should win. Elkins on Wednesday and John Marshall on Saturday. Both are winnable games for us. John Marshall is a team in our region. We need to get that one. We need to set a tone for that. You know, I don't know. You know, we was out. Jake Livengood, our 6'6" center, has been sick all week and didn't even get to play on Saturday. So hoping to get him healthy and get him back in the system on Wednesday. If not Wednesday, for Saturday for sure. So you know, we're going to change it up. I mean, I got a leading scorer on the team right now who's come off the bench. Probably going to get an opportunity to start. You can only set somebody down so long, and if they're going to come out and make things happen, then they're going to get an opportunity. So, we're going to make some lineup changes, give some other folks some opportunity, and go after win number 1.
Well, I think the boys deserve an opportunity to prove themselves, whether they've been starters or they are would-be starters. And more than that, if the Knights can come together as a team, I think you have enough talent that you can come off the bench and not lose much if they'll play within the system.
Well, that's a struggle, you know, and you know, some kids are going to have to get. They're going to have to get this out of their system, the old stuff, pretty quickly, because you know the JV kids run the same system that we're running, and they lost a heartbreaker to University High. They only played one game, but their game went in overtime and got beat on a 5-second 3-point prayer. So, or they would have knocked off University High. So the system works, but the kids have to buy into it and do it, and that's the struggle I'm having right now. Is everybody wants to? We're still on that. I want to play me basketball, and I want to just come down and see what I can do. Well, I can tell you what I can do. I has got us to an 0-3 start, and that's going to change.
Well, folks, you're hearing it straight from the coach, and I don't think there's any better way to put it, or anything that you can do that cuts any other way. That may be a hard lesson to learn, but it's one that the Knights should take to heart. They're going to have to get together and play team ball. And as far as going up and down the floor, there's got to be some help. Way too many traps and way too many situations where turnovers were needless and unforced.
Yeah, I mean we've had over 80 turnovers in 3 basketball games, so you can't win games doing that. So we're gonna, we've tried to run a 1 guard front. We're gonna go with 2 guards on Wednesday and see how that goes. A little bit more, maybe some more quicker ball handling to get it up the floor. We've just got to be smart and quick with the basketball. I mean, a press is designed to cause havoc and to make a quick decision that's a bad one, and that's what we've been doing. And we've got to understand we can't make those bad decisions. We've got to have a little more help back there. And everybody, it seems like I said before, everybody, it's like a hot potato. No one wants to touch that basketball. Let's let somebody else force that turnover, and that we can't play with that mentality. We've got to attack it and get up through it, and we'll get there. I mean, the boys will work. I've had no problem with effort. The biggest problem is teaching them a new system, a new way of doing things, and they're going to have to come around sooner or later.
We've talked a lot about offense, and least anybody think that it's all been bad. I think the defense has been a bright spot. You've shuffled in and out of zone and man. I even saw what looked like a little bit of 1-3-1 a couple of times in the University High game, whether it was or just accidentally looked that way. I felt it was effective. You had a University High team that I know came into the Castle looking to score 100 points. And after the first 2 quarters, they were on pace to do that. You held them to 85. Now, I'm not saying that that's something to be overly proud of, but still, you held them under their stated goal. And you did it with good defense. You did it with good defensive rebounding in a lot of cases. Morgantown High, your stated goal was let's hold them under 60 and win this game. You held them to 57.
No other. I'm going to say a bold statement. Morgantown High will score more than 57 points in every game they play the rest of the year. I don't think any team will hold them to 57. That was a great effort. That is a bright spot for us. Like I say, we have some effort here and there. The kids just need to figure out that it all has to work together. You play a great, you hold a great team. Morgantown High could score 100 on you as well, but hold them to 57. That's pretty daggone good. So we just got to get our offense together and start working together. And when they figure out that teamwork and running the system will work up against that defense, yeah, we're going to come out of this pretty good. But we're still in the learning stages. I'm still going to be patient with them, but we've got to come around sooner or later.
Okay. Well, Elkins this week on Wednesday. Again, the coach said it best. Need a big crowd out there. I guarantee you they'll bring a nice crowd over the mountain. This is a rivalry game for them and for us. And it's one of the more enjoyable rivalries of the season, really, actually, in my opinion. Elkins is always, whether they're up or down, and this year we read that they're down a little bit.
They're 2-1 right now.
And yeah, if that's down, that's a pretty good down. But they're going to come over, certainly, looking at the Knights' record and having seen your play against Morgantown High. I agree, they're going to come in with a plan to press and pick up another victory. And we need a good home crowd there cheering the boys on to kind of thwart that effort. John Marshall, never known to be a really big team, so maybe there's an opportunity for a matchup that can give us a real dominating advantage in the paint. And I think folks would see a different Preston Knight ball game and a different team if we go up against somebody that we can really take it to down low.
Well, these are definitely 2 games that we should win. I'm going, and that's how I'm going to approach it to the boys. We've set some goals, and our goal to come out of this weekend at worst was 1-2. And we come out 0-3, and that's unsettling to me. But because we thought we could get these 2 wins this week, and we could go into next week with a 3-2 record, and that would be really positive. So now we got to relook at some things. But so now, okay, instead of being 3-2, we'll go in the next week 2-3. But that we have the potential to do that. But as we know, potential didn't do anything until it's done. So we're gonna go after these 2. We really do.
And I would encourage folks to get out there early to these games, as you mentioned, Coach, and I know Terry Cochran and I enjoyed very much while we were getting ready for the varsity contest, watching that JV effort against University High, and I think they surprised themselves and surprised their coaches a little bit. I know you surprised the University High staff a little bit because Bucky Forbes, their coach, was close to getting out of the box and maybe getting a whistle or 2 a couple times. He was apoplectic at a couple of points there, and it was at his own kids because Preston was really taking it to him, led through much of the third quarter of that game. It slowly kind of wound down, ended regulation in a tie, but I would encourage folks to get out and support the JV as well. They are fun to watch. It's good basketball, and hopefully they can continue that effort. There will be a JV game Wednesday night against Elkins. Will the JV also be playing on Saturday?
Yes, Saturday's kind of a unique setting. In the afternoon, the girls are playing Grafton, JV and varsity, I think at like 2:30 and 4, something like that. And then our JV boys will play at 5:45 and the varsity at 7:30 on Saturday. So there's actually 4 games on Saturday. So our JV boys are doing a great job. Steve Felton's doing a great job with them. My assistant coach on varsity as well. And we've put these offenses and defensive practices and things together. We have some great young players there. I mean, there's good times coming, and we're working hard as a staff, and the kids are working hard. The freshmen as well. The freshmen play Tuesday night, I believe at 6 o'clock, and they play Elkins freshmen. And then I think they play Buchanan on Thursday. So there's a lot of basketball this week up at Preston High. Come out and see this freshman group as well. They're going to be a very special group. So we have 4 home games this week, between the freshmen and the varsity. So come on out and watch some basketball.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting time, and especially Saturday. Always fun when they pack into the castle for these Saturday, almost a tournament-like feel with all the games that are going on. I wish we could do that a little more often, but Channel 7 will be there with coverage, of course, of both varsity teams, both the men's and women's teams. And at some point, fans of the Coaches Show should know, we plan to try and catch up with head coach Brian Miller and talk a little bit about the Lady Knights, but he's been a pretty busy guy. We will get him. Brian, I know you're watching out there. We will track you down, buddy, and we'll talk about what the Lady Knights have been up to. So Saturday for sure, get up there, but don't miss Wednesday night, the Elkins rivalry. Come on out. There's nothing better to do on Wednesday evening than come to a good ball game, and the weather has turned very basketball-like. You don't need to be outside in the cold. Your mom told you you'll just get sick out there. You don't have your hat on anyway, so come in the gym. It's nice and warm in there. We've checked out the concession stand. The food's great. Come on in. Get a couple hot dogs, bag of popcorn, sit down and watch some good basketball. And, Coach, any final comments or anything that you would like to tell the fans?
Well, I really appreciated what they did coming out for the University High game. I mean, they're very vocal, especially the student section. We had a lot of students over there. We need you out there again Wednesday night. Kids, come out, get loud, get excited. We're gonna have some exciting games this year. And I tell you what, Wednesday night is going to be. It's one we need the home court advantage, and to get that, you got to have the energy. And I know these kids will feed off the crowd and the energy. We don't have 100% the start we wanted, but I also knew we could possibly be 0-3. We were playing a very tough. I don't think any other team in the state probably played as tough a 3 games in 4 days as we did. So. Not an excuse because we take anything head on, but it was tough. So, we're back to maybe reality now, and teams that are more beatable, and we've got to get that. We've got to win those games that we should, and we've got to compete in the games that we should. So,
Coach, I know you carry a lot of it around in your head, but I know you've got your stat book with you tonight too. Any individual performances that you want to point out, offensive, defensive, whether it's points, rebounds, anything going on with the Knights that you feel the fans really need to kind of focus and say, "Attaboy"?
Well, our leading scorer right now in 3 games is Nick Smith. He's averaging 9 points a game. He comes off the bench. We're probably going to change that this week, but Nick.
And he's your youngest player.
He's the only sophomore on the varsity team.
Wow.
Comes in and has been playing maybe a quarter and a half, 2 quarters, and is our leading scorer. He had 15 on Saturday, and that was probably in a quarter and a half. So against Magnolia. Hayden Park is averaging 9, and Ethan Livengood is averaging 8. So those are our top 3 scorers right now for the first 3 games. So we need to get a little bit more. We're averaging 49 points a game. We want to average 60 plus. So, but against the pressure defenses that University and Morgantown throwed at us, that was tough. So we feel we can get 60 points against the more human teams, so to speak. University of Morgantown is just, that pressure is really tough. But so we're gonna try to be more exciting, attack the basket more, shoot more, get our, we just need to come together as an offense. And the biggest problem we're having is getting the kids to run the system and trust the system. And they just come down and 1 or 2 passes and everybody gets excited and we just chuck a shot. And that's not how we're going to win games. So we'll get those things corrected. We'll get our turnovers down to under 20 and eventually under 15. So we're a work in progress, but I'm pleased so far.
Well, that's good to know. Now, also, fans out there need to know that going into January, not only do we have a full slate of boys and girls high school games on the card, but also, as we did last year, we're going to bring you some exciting middle school basketball, and I know that's something that's close to Coach Koontz's heart because he was at West Preston for a long time and very successful at that level. And, hey, that's where the feeder system starts, where it begins. On Wednesday, January the 3rd, we encourage everybody to come out for the Central Preston versus West Preston middle school games in Kingwood. And we'll have that game on digital delay on the 4th and throughout the remainder of that week, in addition to our high school coverage. Later on in the season, we'll also have South Preston, East Preston. We'll try to get all the middle school action we can worked into the calendar, and Terry Cochran and I look forward to that as well. We've got a couple of newer facilities at that level in the county with gyms that frankly have bright enough lights that you can take a camera in there and see what's going on. So we'll take a peek down to that level as well, but we'll keep up with what's going on at the high school level with home games for the boys and the girls. And of course, every week we'll be here with Coach Koontz. I don't think we've scared him too bad yet, so he'll probably come back next week. And we'll be here taping on Sunday evenings in the Mountain Digital Studio. And we'll be back with you on the air all week with the Coach's Show, as well as our high school coverage. Any final thoughts, Coach?
Well, you mentioned the middle school there. Coach Felton and I have already been out watching some of the early season games. He went up to East Preston the other night, and we both went over and watched Central Preston. So there's some real good teams there. So we've got a lot of young kids working hard. But getting back to our program, again, Elkins opens up our Big Ten schedule, and one of the goals we set. There's 14 teams in that conference, and we want to be in the top 4. That was a goal of ours, and so we still have a lot of goals that we can obtain. We kind of we slipped up one game. It's not the end of the world. It gives us something to teach the players and keep working on. I'll never give up on any one of these young men that's on the team. They've they've had some rough times, and we'll get through these early struggles and get some good times going. So, get out there and support us. Everybody stay positive. That I can assure you the Preston High Knights are working hard, and we're going to get one very soon.
All right. Well, you heard it from the coach, and he knows better than any of us exactly what's going on. So we thank you for going behind the scenes with Coach Koontz here on the Mountain Digital Coaches Show. For Terry Cochran, our executive producer and director tonight from Tri-State Productions, and all the folks there, everyone here at Mountain Digital certainly wishes you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday Season. Get your shopping done early, get out to these ball games that remain here in December, and have a good time with the Preston Knights as we bring you more basketball here on your hometown TV station. And for now, Coach, fans, we say goodnight.